Hey y'all, this is David, the Georgia photographer, and today's truck talk happens to come from the KOA in Flagstaff, Arizona. We're renting that thing and going around and doing a little bit of traveling and seeing what we can see. We're going to go to the Grand Canyon today and see that. Then we're thinking about going up and looking at Antelope Canyon, seeing the crowd. I'll probably deliberately take crowd photos at Antelope Canyon because from the looks of things, it's pretty crowded in there. Now, back to the subject at hand. What I've got is, I've got my travel camera that I've brought on this trip. Now, I went to a lot of trouble to get the Nikon ZF and the 50mm f1.8s for my travel camera. That being a known, I chose this camera because I took it to England and it took beautiful photos. Now, I brought it out here because I knew it wasn't going to be raining. There's 0% chances of rain. Like, I haven't even seen clouds since we've arrived in Arizona, like at all. Any. Okay? It's blue skies in every direction, as you can see in the background here. That it looks like that behind the camera too. So I am 0% worried about water infiltration on this camera. Dust, different story. Water, none. So the reason I picked this camera is it's small, it's lightweight, it takes really good photos, it has a lot of megapixels, 24 megapixel camera. The lens I chose is the TTRs and f0.95s, the 35mm APS-C size lens in the L mount for this camera. This is, of course, the Leica CL, which is the crop sensor version. This camera is now out of production. You can only buy secondhand ones at this point. But this camera works for me because I know how to use it. I've used it so much, I'm comfortable with it, and I'm comfortable with operating it and getting good photos with it. That's something that a lot of people take for granted. They buy their camera and they go out and they do some photos and they sit it on a shelf. Now, I'm not talking about people that like bird photography, you know, Phil or Johnny Pink or somebody like that, or even Ron. You know, these guys, they know their cameras implicitly because they're using them as tools to get results like they want. I'm not talking about those kind of people. I'm talking about your average Joe goes and buys an interchangeable lens camera. They get it out, they come out of the chute real strong, and they'll go play with it some. But then it doesn't take long and the new wears off, and they'll sit it on a shelf. And then come time for a trip, they'll get it out and they'll bring everything they've got because they don't know what they're going to be taking photos of, and they don't understand how to use the camera equipment they do have, and they'll charge up the batteries, and here they go, overburdened with a whole bunch of gear they don't need. Then they get on the trip and they end up taking photos of the vacation. That's what I've been doing here. It's getting kind of vacation, a little bit of landscapey looking stuff, but mostly vacation-ish type of photos. And like the Grand Canyon today, I'm gonna do a big pano with this handheld because I didn't bring a tripod at all. I didn't plan on needing one. I wasn't gonna do astrophotography. I wasn't gonna do any long exposure photography. If I do long exposure, I'll just set the camera on something like a wall or a fence post or whatever and just take the picture. But for the most part, I just wanted to grab memories. And understanding that out of the chute simplifies the loadout dramatically. I brought the camera, the lens, some batteries. I didn't even bring a spare memory card, which was foolish on my part. I normally grab my card wallet, but I didn't put it in the bag for some reason. So fortunately, I'm in an industrialized society, and I was able to go to the store and buy a spare card. So I do have a spare memory card for this and the GoPro. Because what I did is I bought a micro SD that had the card adapter. Yeah, you're not supposed to use those in your, in an SD card situation, but they do work and it will get you out of a bind. So that's my backup. The other day, I ran into a problem with the GoPro, but I'll get into that in another video. That ain't what this video is about. But I see people all the time asking me, what camera should I get? Because I'm going on a big vacation, or I want to take pictures of my family. And what they're doing is they're giving you an overgeneralized broadsword statement, and that statement isn't all encompassing like it should be. You know, you don't do surgery with a broadsword, jokingly enough. So you can't buy, like, this won't do wildlife photography unless you're just really, really brave and walk right up to a bear. This is not the tool. You know, you want long lenses and really large sensors with lots of pixels so you can crop a lot, you know. But if you're doing sports, this once again is not a sports camera, you know. But for capture memories, that's a great tool. It works beautifully for that. Let me check my display. Come on, display, show up. Okay, I'm back. I have a little front display on this Osmo Action 4, and the sun's now hitting the front lens, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't getting a big flare or something. All right, where was I? Okay, the right tool for the right job. But it takes a long time for some reason for entry-level photographers or beginning photographers or whatever that want to photo document the world around them to understand that. And for me, it was nice to go down the path of discovery to figure out what focal length I like. On crop sensors, it's 35. On full frame, it's 50. I'm a 50 mil guy. I have figured it out. A lot of people like 28, a lot like 35, a lot like the 24 to 70 zoom. Doesn't matter which one. What I prefer you do, though, is figure out what works for you and stick with that camera and lens combo for your whole trip. Swapping a bunch of lenses makes you miss photos. You know, the decision paralysis will make you miss photos because you're worried about the equipment, not about the image. Will I take pictures that are too far away? Yeah, because my lens doesn't zoom and I can't walk over there because there's a river in the way or something. I'll still take the picture, and then in post-production I can determine whether or not it's a keeper. You know, it's real easy to do. But at the end of the day, I just want you to understand you really need a lens and camera combination to capture memories. Memories is the magic. If you don't have something that'll let you capture memories, then what are you doing? I mean, really, even your iPhone will do that. But what I'm gonna segue slightly is print them out. And the reason I say that is your phone can get lost or destroyed. I'm preaching to the choir. Everybody's heard all this already. You can even print phone photos. Teresa does it. At the end of the year, she'll take her phone and she'll upload all the pictures she wants to print to Shutterfly and prints 4x6 prints of all them images. And that way she's got hard copy prints in case her phone gets lost or destroyed. You know, it could just fail. The memory card in it could go bad and your phone just die. There's 1,000 ways that phone could lose those photos. So I'm just trying to make sure I drive that point home. Is I will take the photos from this trip and I'm going to print books. I'm going to print a book for me and Teresa, and I print a book for my friends John and Carrie, who we've spent the first half of this trip with. And that way they can have the memories and we can have the memories. Of course, their book won't have the Grand Canyon escapades because they're not here for that. They went home already. They started their trip a little earlier than us, and we kind of overlapped in the middle on the trip, you know. But I want to share that with them, so I'm going to print them a book. And I'm going to make some wall prints. I've got some cool photos of them just for them. I'm going to do that. But yeah, printing your work is the magic at the end of the day from your vacations. And you don't need an expensive camera. I mean, this one's kind of expensive. A Fuji X-T3 with a prime on it would work beautifully here. You don't have to have a Leica to do that. I just happen to still have this Leica. I haven't sold it. You know, it works. It's a great camera, so I use it. But just whatever camera you have, don't take a backpack full of lenses thinking that you need every possible option at every possible outing. You don't. You need one lens and one camera and know how to use it. That's all I got to say at the end of the day. So until next time, this is David, the Georgia photographer, and I appreciate y'all sticking around for my truck talk, even though I'm not in a truck. And we'll see y'all later. Bye-bye. Oh, get your camera out and go take a picture with it. Bye-bye.